Well, it's kind of a backstory I can give you. I lived in Lima my whole life or whatever, but I moved to Columbus, Ohio. And at the time, I was just getting involved with wrestling and that sort of thing. I think I'd been in about 5 years or so. Well, at the time, Les Thatcher had a WWE, WCW, I think it was WWE at that time, WWF actually, developmental deal. And they were doing a show up here at the local fairgrounds. And they contacted me and Dusty Dillinger and Dexter Dementia to help, I guess, promote the show or have us on the card or whatever it was at that time. And we go there, we do the show, and basically Les Thatcher and Mike Sanders and guys like that, whatever, just treated us like dog crap. It was pretty brutal. I mean, it was, we knew to respect them, but it was pretty bad. And they didn't like the match. They crapped all over the match. They didn't like this. They didn't like that. And so we just took it as, they were just being disrespectful because they're the ones that came to us to help them with the show and this, that, and the other. But they had that big league mentality, that, they had a WWE deal. They had that name, attached to them. So, anybody that wasn't associated with them was just garbage. So basically we did the match. We did all that sort of thing. We just took it as, this is our hometown and we can do it better. And basically that's where wrestling and the respect comes into play. Because at the end of the day, all we had was the wrestling in this town, and all we had was our respect. So that's where War Wrestling got started. And Les Thatcher knows this. I've thanked him since then. We've actually talked, and I've actually leaned on him, over the years and that sort of thing. But the big thing for us was this was our hometown, and our very first show that we ever did, I believe that show was in July of 1996. And our very first show was January of 1997. And we drew 541 fans. Okay. So, that was the big thing for us. We just took it as, we can do it. We can do it just as good. We don't need the WWE name attached to us. We know what's going to sell in this community, and that sort of thing. And at the time, there was actually 6 of us that actually started it. So, we did 2 or 3 shows, and then basically 3 of the business partners left. We had a falling out and that sort of thing. And then it was just me, Dexter Dementia, and Dusty Zillinger. But I was the main one at that time or whatever, that, was the promoter and that sort of thing. But that's pretty much how it got started. I mean, it was there isn't any glamorous story to it or whatever, we just kind of, we said, they came to us. If my memory serves me correct, and I'm not trying to, be mean or anyway, but I think they only drew, I want to say like 150 people.
Oh, wow.
And then, the way I thought about it was, you guys got the WWE name attached to you, you guys should be drawing a lot more than that. And, so that's pretty much how it got started. That's pretty much how, War Wrestling evolved, and that sort of thing, like I said. And that's the one big thing I try to get a lot of the other promoters to understand. Because I've said over the years, that I try to hold ourselves to a higher standard, and that I'm very, very demanding on, the crowds that we get and that sort of thing. Because we didn't start out with 50 fans, and then we ran another show and we got 75 fans, then we ran another show and we got 100. Right from the gate, right from the very first show we ever did, we had 541 fans. So those expectations are always there. Even 17 years later, those expectations were there, and because I know that the fans are here. So anything less than that, I'm mad. I'm upset about it. So yeah, I mean, like I said, but but that's pretty much how it got started. Like I said, I've talked to Les since then, over the years and that sort of thing or whatever. And it's kind of a cool, story on how it actually got started. Because it was one of those things where they just felt. I won't say that they big leagued everybody, but if you got the WWE name attached to your promotion, you do got a little bit of an ego, and you do, walk around and think that you're the bee's knees, and here was 3 local guys, You know what I mean? That they wanted us on the show and that sort of thing. We try to do it as best as we can. You know, and I'll be totally honest with you, back then, 17 years ago, I didn't know anything about promoting. You know, I pretty much, you know, at that time I was just a manager, and I just went to the shows with the guys and managed guys, and that I didn't really know, you know, too much of the behind-the-scenes stuff, and, you know, as far as like actually running a promotion, you know what I mean? So it's definitely been a learning curve over the last 17 years. So.
Right, and I've made the drive from Columbus to a few shows. When I started coming, it was at the UAW Hall. You've had a couple venue changes over the past couple years. Has that hurt the promotion any, or has it helped it out?
I would say overall hurt. And the reason why I say that is because they had professional wrestling at the UEW Hall even prior to WAR Wrestling. And everybody knew that there was wrestling there. And we ran probably over 150 shows in that building ourselves. And fans just knew the first Saturday of the month there was going to be wrestling and all of that. They put the building up for sale. And then we ended up going to the Civic Center in downtown Lima, which it's a big, huge venue with a big, huge price tag.
Right.
And, you know, the crowds were good. I'm not going to say that they weren't, but it was hard to justify the kind of money that we would see draw the same amount of people as the UAW Hall compared to the Civics. That's the big thing. Well, then, you know, we ended up moving across town to, it's called the Batfield Community Center. It's a nice old school building. It's got a full-size gym, bleachers on one side. And it took us probably, I want to say 4 or 5 shows to get people to realize that that's where we're going, that's where we're staying, and all of that. You know, I want to say that the crowds are probably the same as what they were when we was at the UAW Hall, but I'd say it's right around the same, maybe a little bit less. But the cool thing about the Bradfield is you got bleachers on one side that will easily hold 300 or 400 people. So it's pretty much hard to, you know, number-wise, you know, to see up there. You can see, you know, pockets of people sitting together and all that. But yeah, so overall, I mean, it's pretty much the same. You know, I didn't like leaving the UAW Hall because that was home and that was a comfort zone. But, you know, going to the Civic Center was a good thing because we got some different eyes on us from other people in the community and fan-wise. And then going to the Bradfield Community Center. The ironic thing about all this is the new owner of the UAW Hall has actually contacted me about possibly going back there in the future.
Oh, wow.
So he bought it and is fixing it up. He actually invited me out personally to come out and see the improvements that he was doing. He had, you know, he had put brand new LED lighting in the main hall, and, you know, he's fixing it up and all of that. So he's a person about coming back there. You know, but as you know, with every venue, it's got its pluses and its minuses and that sort of thing. You know, so you know, never say never in wrestling. You know what I mean? If it presented itself in a good business manner, you know, I would definitely say that we would consider going back to the UAW.
Okay, cool. And you also use a promotion to give back to the community. In what ways has that worked?
I think well, the big thing for us in the Lima area is economically, you know, we're one of the poorer counties in the state. And the inner city is definitely overlooked. You know, everybody moves out to the suburbs and all of that sort of thing or whatever. We have some big corporations here like Husky and the Tank Plant and Ford and places like that, you know, can just donate, you know, thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of dollars. And what we do is we donate tickets or do fundraisers and all of that over the last, you know, basically 17 years. We've actually given back, WAR Wrestling, the company, has given back to the local community over $350,000 over the last 17 years. We've done fundraisers. We just did one a couple weeks ago for a young gentleman who took a bad hit in playing some high school football. And we did a fundraiser in Coldwater, Ohio, and after paying all the bills and that sort of thing, we gave that family $6,100. And then we did another show the previous year in the same town for a little girl that had cancer. And after paying all the bills and that sort of thing, we gave that family over $8,000. We've done bowling with the wrestlers, and we've actually bought like a semi-truckload of food for the local Veterans Food Pantry. So we just use wrestling as a positive tool. Wrestling has a stigma and all of that, and we kind of just, we're entrenched in the community, and that it's just our way of being able to give back, because I can't write that big $20,000-$30,000 check like a Husky Energy or places like that, but, I can give back a little ways, you know what I mean? To me, you and I both know, as done, followed wrestling, wrestling is, you hear all the horror stories where there's a charity show and then the charity doesn't get any money.
Right, yeah.
So I want to be totally the opposite of that. That's one of the requirements that we actually have when we do charity work. We require somebody from that organization or the family or whatever to physically be there at the show. We count all the money, and then we physically hand them all the cash. And what I mean by that is they get all the 50-50 money, they get all the concessions, all the ticket money, they get 100% of everything, because what we normally do is we go out into the community and we get sponsors that basically pays for the show. So then we know right from the jump, right from day one, before there's even one ticket sold, that that family and or that organization is getting all the money. It's just kind of our way. I mean, like I said, we donate tickets to the local MRDD groups, and that sort of thing. We've done that for 17 years. So it's just little things that we try to do. There's not a whole lot that goes on in this community. We just try to give them that one Saturday night a month where they can go out and have a good time, and for as little as money as possible or whatever. And we've got some good friends out of it that support us now, and we've got some good local sponsors that support what we do. And to me, it's just we're all about giving back now and using professional wrestling as a tool to do that.
Awesome. And so the roster that you have, you've had people like Jake Something, Hardcore Heather Owen, Shauna Reed, Halal Beefcake, and several others kind of work with the promotion. How do you go about filling your roster for each show? Is there kind of a waiting list process?
Yeah, I will say that I probably actually overbook the shows, but I want to give our fans the most variety, and I want them to be able to see these guys, on a consistent basis and that sort of thing or whatever. But a majority, I watch a lot of tape. I get, a lot of the guys that we use are word of mouth from other guys that I know, that won't steer me wrong. It's my job to promote. It's my job to find the diamonds in the rough, and that sort of thing or whatever. And I honestly will say this: we got a good enough reputation within the wrestling community that a lot of guys want to work for us, whether it's because of the size of the crowd, or we feed all the guys or whatever, all the talent or whatever. We feed them catered meals or whatever prior to the show. We have water for the guys. That's a lot of things that a lot of promoters don't do. So we try to treat them as best as we can. And a lot of the talent that we use or whatever, they like performing in front of 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 800 people, because the typical crowd on the independent scene is probably less than 100. So if you can consistently pack in 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 800 people monthly for years upon years upon years, you have that reputation that you're not going to steer everybody wrong. I'm not walking up the back with all the pay, and that sort of thing. So it's just a matter of once you have a proven product, the fans see it and or the wrestlers see it. We've had a lot of people. I can go way back. We did a show in Indianapolis, Indiana. It's probably been, say 15 years ago, maybe a little bit less, probably closer to 15, honestly. But we used the Highlanders, and then the very next Monday, they were on WWE Raw. Right. So it's just one of them things, you surround yourself around good people. You surround yourself, like with me, for instance, I book guys or use guys and girls that I think will have a connection with the fans. I don't care about the moves. I don't care about none of that. I want our wrestlers to have a connection. To me, I'm all about the storylines and the angles. I don't care about the moves, You know, I tell everybody that if you're 100% legit trained, you should be able to do any move that you set your mind to it. So, you know, it doesn't matter to me. I want the emotional connection, you know, that those fans look at those guys as legitimate stars. And that's the one thing I can say about our fans. They do not see the difference between WWE stars and World Wrestling stars.
Right. I've noticed that the shows I've gone to, that the fans are very animated when the heels come out, and just the same for the baby faces.
Right.
And do you kind of feel like the internet's kind of ruined the way most fans look at pro wrestling?
I think because it's readily available, you know, that you can just get on your smartphone and all of that. But I also think in that same breath, I think we as a whole in the industry, promoters, bookers, wrestlers, whatever, have kind of exposed it. And what I mean by that is, you know, if you just wrestled a guy on a show and you know, you're going to be basically beating the crap out of him, 3 hours later, you shouldn't be taking a selfie with him and shaking hands with him.
Right.
You know, so to me, I put a lot of the blame on us that's been involved in the business, and you know, a lot of people say kayfabe is dead and that sort of thing or whatever, and I 100% disagree with that. And the reason why I say that is because your fan base is only knows what's going on if you give it to them. Right. And what I mean by that is if you expose it and you post all these pictures and you do all this sort of stuff or whatever, and you got fans that are on social media, you're going to expose the business. You know, I want the fans to legitimately think that dude is going to kick the crap out of that guy, and I got to be there on Saturday night to watch it. Our fan base, they don't care about the behind the scenes stuff. I tell people this all the time, and I don't like using this word, but if I had 700 fans on a consistent basis, I would dare say out of those 700 fans, we might have 5 smart marks. We have fans, and that's the biggest thing I try to tell everybody is you know, I know I got some of our fans that, you know, they want to try to know the inner workings and this, that, and the other or whatever, but I just don't. I feel we don't expose it, and I'll even use an example. We have some guys that have been putting us or whatever, was set up and tear down and that sort of thing or whatever, and they know when the wrestlers come that no matter what's been done onto the show prior, or, you know, what's been done leading up to the show, when we're setting up and doing all that, they know that when they see their first wrestler, they have to go out to the hallway. They have to leave, you know, the gymnasium or wherever we're performing. And it's just because I don't want to expose those fans, those people that are helping us, about the inner workings of what's going on behind the scenes.
Right.
You know, I also need to see the 2 guys talking. You know, and that fan that's sitting in that bleacher is watching these 2 guys that are supposed to fight at the end of the night, you know, sitting there talking and joking around. I don't need that. You know, so yeah, I mean, I think it's just one of those things where, you know, if you expose it, the fans are going to know. If you don't expose it, you know, I'll even use this as an example. I never smarted my mother up to the business. I never, you know, she came to the shows as a fan. She left the shows as a fan. And I even would go so far as she and my mother, or my grandmother and my uncles and all that would come to the shows a few years ago, they would go to the ticket outlets and buy the tickets. I treated them just like they were fans. And I never exposed the business to my mother. And actually one time I did, and it was actually a by mistake, where we had Thanksgiving dinner, and I invited one of my buddies over, and I just overlooked it. And it so happened to be the guy that I was feuding with. And my mother flipped a lid. She legit was like, what in the F is he doing here? And how do you explain that? You know what I mean? Because I had it instilled in their mind that whole time that me and that dude hated each other.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then now all of a sudden I have to explain that to my mother. You know what I mean? And I'm talking, this is like 15 years. This is like 15 years into me being involved in wrestling. So I never exposed it to him, you know? And I guess maybe that's just me, you know what I mean? My mentality of going into it, like I said, but as far as the internet and all that, I'd say it's a double-edged sword because you can get more exposure by posting stuff on the internet and all that, but it also has a hindrance. You got to find that happy median, what's going to work for videos and, that sort of thing, and promoting it with, posters and flyers and doing all that sort of thing. So, yeah, those things. I mean, it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah, and you're getting ready to go into fair season, but when you come back in September, you've announced you're adding 2 new names each month to kind of get some new talent out there. How have fans been receptive to that? Have they been pretty receptive with that?
I'll be honest with you. Even though we've announced the names, the fans are going to be receptive once they physically see them in the ring. I can honestly sit here and tell you that they just look at no matter who we bring in as there's just another wrestler on the show, and that if we're using them, then they must be good. So now it's the guys' jobs to interact with those fans and to get themselves over by a bad guy or good guy, hated or loved or whatever. It's their jobs now. I'm a big advocate on, you have to have the connection with the fans. Right. And if you don't have it, I don't care. You know what I mean? I've used some guys or whatever, and I always use Akeem Zane as an example. Akeem Zane is awesome. I love that dude to death. I think he's awesome in the ring. I'm glad that he's in Impact Wrestling. But if he wasn't hated by the fans and he just went out there and wrestled for himself or for the guys in the back, our fans wouldn't care.
Right.
But he talks mad crap to where those fans are like, you know what, I want to see him get his ass kicked. And that's the big difference, and we're bringing in some new talent, and I've told some of the people behind the scenes with me, by default, I've always been loyal to guys that we've used over the years and years and years and years, and I'm very seldom bringing any newer people that I really don't know anything about. A majority of the guys that we're bringing in this time, they were actually recommended by guys that we already use in our locker room. And that's because the guys in our locker room know, what I want and what I expect and what I want out of these guys. And behind the scenes in wrestling, if a guy sticks his neck out for you and then you end up being a tool, that has a reflection onto that guy.
Right.
So in our case, I got 10 new guys, and I probably could have honestly did 20 at least. I mean, we had over 100 people that sent us footage and resumes and make contact with us and all that sort of thing, from rookies all the way to guys that are 20 years into wrestling. It's just going to be, I think they're excited about seeing some fresh new blood, and the fans know that, they know at least one match is going to have 2 new guys on it for the next 5 shows. And the cool thing about that show is all those matches are leading into our anniversary show, which is our big huge show every year. The winners of those 5 matches are going to all go against each other at the anniversary show in a scramble match.
Oh, nice.
So, there's some incentive at the end of that. It ain't just a match and we forget about them. It's basically, they're going to have that connection with the fans because they know that when, War 18 or War 17 rolls around and Hall of Fame 8 rolls around, that they're going to be on the biggest show of the year, for us. So it's just, I don't want to say it's a gimmick, but it's kind of a gimmick to get in some new guys, give in some new talent, and try to build some new guys because, I can't always use the Jake Somethings or the Hakeem Zanes or people like that or whatever that are hot on the independent scene right now, So I can't always use those guys, or Hollow Beefcake, you mentioned them, those are 2 guys that are hot right now in Canada. I can't always use those guys. And so, I want to bring in some new guys that, the fans might have a connection with or, the fans want to get behind. I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, I watched, over the last couple of weeks, I've probably watched probably 100 hours worth of tape. So, that's the one big thing about me as an owner and a promoter and the booker. I go through every single thing that's sent to me. I don't blow anybody off. If a guy contacts me, he says, "Hey, I'm interested." The very first thing I say is, "Hey, send me a resume, send me some footage, and I'll get back to you." And then within a few days, I told him that, send me another message and remind me, because, to me, I'm not the type of, promoter that's like, "Oh, you're bugging me because you want to book it." Wrestling changes so fast that, we book a year out. And what I mean by that is we already know what we're doing for next year's anniversary show.
Right.
So we work backwards from that. So basically, when we start, we start basically the whole year, and we get to the payoff or whatever. But, guys get injured or guys get signed, and they're looking for other promotions and all of that. And some of the things may change or whatever, but we know the direction we're going to go for that whole year. So that to me, that's what separates me from a lot of the other promoters that go show by show. And I legit make contact with every single person that messages me, sends me anything or whatever, and I'll tell them, like, "Hey, send me your next match or whatever, my trip, or send me some ideas or whatever, because I'm very, very angle and storyline driven. So when a guy comes to me and he says, "Hey, I want to be a part of your show," I usually ask him two questions. What do you want to get over by working for us? Your long-term thing or whatever you want, whatever. And who do we take off of our current roster to put you on it?
Right.
And a lot of guys don't understand what I mean in this is I feel that anybody that works our shows can main event any other show. And that's the way that I go into it. And it's not me being cocky or it's not me being arrogant in any way, shape, or form. It's just me having confidence that the talent we use is top-notch talent, and that they could go, the following Saturday night in another town, and they could be the main event in that town. You know what I mean? And that's just the way that I go about doing it.
And I saw in December you're doing double duty by having the Queen of War on Friday night, then the regular show Saturday.
Yes, sir.
How were submissions for the Queen of War? Did you get a lot of submissions?
Yeah, I would dare say that I probably had 50 or 60.
Oh, wow.
At least. Yeah. And I'll be honest with you, the ones that we've picked so far, it was pretty nerve-wracking. I mean, I'll be in Heather, and I know Heather. Me and Heather Owens. We have a bond that will last forever because she was the one girl that totally changed my mind about women's professional wrestling.
Right.
And what her and Pomona did last year for our anniversary show was historic on so many different levels. It was the main event of our show, the only women's match to ever main event our anniversary show. It was it was a cage match with weapons. There were so many variables to that. And what I tell people is that match was built to where the fans wanted to see it. And the thing that a lot of people don't realize is everybody knew that Heather Owens was going to retire after that match.
Right.
Not one person ever said, "Oh my God, Pomona's going to keep the title," or whatever. That was never even brought up. They just wanted to see the ending of that sequence of matches, that storyline, that angle, and all of that. So going into the Queen of War, it was kind of the same mentality. As I wanted to bring in girls that I knew our fans would get over with, and I wanted to bring in girls that our fans want to see. And to be honest, some of the girls we know that somewhat submitted stuff to them. They're all fantastic or whatever. But some of them may wanted a little bit more money or their schedule. Because originally we was going to do the Queen of War in October.
Okay.
But a majority of the talent that we wanted to use couldn't make October. Well, then I said, we'll do it in November. Well, Shiver Wrestling is running their monthly shows in November the same weekend that we was going to run ours. So I'm like, well, that just pretty much limits, a bunch of the talent that we want to use. So then it ended up being December, and that sort of thing. And the response has been fantastic. it's kind of funny doing it because I heard from some other promoters that do all girl shows, and you might know this better than me, but typically a majority of the all girl shows don't draw really really good numbers. And typically they draw 200 or less or somewhere around in that, or that sort of thing. So my goal is to draw basically double what the average woman show is. So if the average woman show is 150, well, to say that's an average, 150, then my goal is to draw 300. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do whatever it takes to legitimately draw 300 girls, or 300 fans. I want these girls to be like, holy shit, we just wrestled for this guy in Lima, Ohio for W.A.R Wrestling, and there are legitimate 300 people there. That's my goal, as the promoter. And I believe in the girls that we brought in are going to do really, really good. We've announced 9 of the girls, and we got one more that we're waiting to hear back from. She's supposed to be touring over in Japan and that sort of thing. So we're trying to get the timeline to see if she's actually going to be back stateside or not before we announce the 10th. But we might throw in we might throw a couple more girls in the mix or whatever, with just a regular match, not part of the Queen of War. But the Queen of the War thing for me, we're going to crown a new champion or whatever, but I'm all about the gimmick of it. And what I mean by that is I'm actually having a legit throne made that's going to be the Queen throne. We did King of the War a couple years ago, and we had a throne made. And we're doing the exact same thing. There'll be a crown there, there'll be, a robe there, there'll be a throne there, and that sort of thing. Because to me, it's almost like the King of the Ring back in the day with the WWE, I guess you could say, so I want to make it, I want to make it authentic. I want, when those fans come to the show, there's going to be a throne sitting in the middle of the ring with the belt and with the crown, that sort of thing. And whoever wins it, they'll be the Queen of War, So, yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to it on a lot of different levels. But the cool thing about that is we never really ran a Friday and a Saturday in the same venue. So what we're actually going to do is if the fans want to attend both shows, they can get VIP seats, which is basically reserve seats in the first, second, and third row. They can get to see both shows for $20. So to me, that's a win-win situation. You can get VIP reserve seats for virtually $20, which is $10 for the Queen of War, $10 for our regular show. Now, granted, if they can only send one or the other, it'll be $15 for VIP tickets. But to me, to see 2 shows of that caliber for $20 is a steal.
Yeah, I've been, like I said, I've been some of the Saturday shows, and 15 alone's a steal for that. But do both
I appreciate you saying that. I mean, like I said, we're not trying to gouge people. We put the tickets on sale for what I tell people we're pretty much the same price as if you go to a movie. Right. That's what we try to keep the price around. I think it's like $11 or $12 to come to the local movie theater here and that sort of thing. So we just try to keep it affordable. I want to try to attract the families. I want to try to attract the people, that can physically afford to come to the shows and that sort of thing or whatever. And for you to say, you feel our shows worth $15, that to me means, a good thing. Like there's only one time a year, which is our anniversary show, where I raise the ticket prices for the Hall of Fame and, all the gimmick matches that we do. And we do it for $20 for the front row or for VIP. Right. So yeah, that's the only time, I mean, I've thought about raising the ticket prices, but I'm comfortable with the 15, and I think that I think our fans like the $15 a ticket. So and definitely for the Queen of War and our regular show, basically $10 for VIP. I don't think we're going to have a problem selling out the VIP. So I'm looking forward to it. I mean, after doing all the shows that we've done over the years, I try to do things now to excite me and give me back that, that creative juice, that creative energy or whatever. So, the Queen of War is definitely, going to do that for me because I've never run an all-girl show. So it's a little bit of a different beat. The fans that are attracted to the shows are a little bit different, and you got to hype it up a little bit different. Like I have a girl, I have a PR girl that works with me here in town, and she sends out press releases and all of that. And she's taken it upon herself to actually go out and seek women-owned businesses or women that run businesses. Because we're all about empowering the little girls in the community and showing them that they can if they set their mind to it, they can do anything. Right. So that's our next big thing with that is we're going to hype it up real good. We're going to go out and get some women-owned businesses to support the show and back the show and all of that. And it's all about going to be girl power, I guess you could say. So that's a creative thing that we're working on. To me, it ain't just going to be a show all about the meaning of the show, because a lot of these girls that we're using, they're looked at in our fan base as they're superheroes.
Right.
So, this is going to be the first time where, we even got 2 women referees that are coming, and we actually got a woman ring announcer. So the whole show is theoretically going to be women in that role. And actually my wife, she's going to be the one running everything out front. She always runs everything out front, but she's going to be the one handling everything that night, and that sort of thing too. So pretty much the whole show is going to be ran by all women.
That's awesome.
So it's going to be cool. I mean, I'm looking forward to it on so many different levels.
Yeah, that'll be a cool event. I'm hoping to make it out to that one. The card looks great from the names you've announced, and just hoping to make a weekend out of it.
Right.
Now, with your role as promoter, booker, how do you find a balance between that and your everyday life? Because it seems like you're kind of in the promoter role 24/7.
Yes. Well, I'll give you a little bit of a backstory. Going on almost 4 years ago, whatever, I felt that I needed professional wrestling. It was I felt like I was the only thing. But 4 years ago, I actually had gastric bypass surgery and weight loss surgery. And I've lost over 250 pounds in the last 4 years. And it's kind of, how can I say it? I've learned to separate it. 4 years ago, my life was professional wrestling. It was 24/7, family get-togethers, I'm answering the phone, or I'm answering an email, or, on vacation, and I'm doing this, and this, and, when it was all wrestling. Now, I kind of, I got some other people that work with me behind the scenes or whatever that the guys can lean on and they can reach out to and that sort of thing. Granted, overall, I have the final say, quote unquote, but overall, I've just learned to balance it. That the be-all, end-all isn't professional wrestling and that you need to have a life outside of that. I do a lot more traveling now because I'm physically able to do it because, like I said, I've lost 250 pounds, So, I can physically get out and do things a little bit more and all of that. But I will tell you this. I think anybody in professional wrestling needs to have things totally 100% separated. And what I mean by that is even like on social media, I have a regular page and then I have, the business page. Even like the W.A.R wrestling thing that I post wrestling on, it's my real name. But right. I don't mix my personal life and my business life or whatever. I haven't done that for actually a long, long time. And I just think you need that release. And the release for me is just being able to, go out to eat with the wife and we can sit there and have a conversation about her day at work or, my day or whatever, and it's not always wrestling. But like I said, I've learned over the last 4 years, like I said, I got some people that work behind the scenes with me now. I'll be honest with you, I don't know when my timeline is of leaving the wrestling business. So I'm kind of been mentoring some of the younger generation or whatever that have showed interest in doing the promoting side and the booking side and all of that. Because, like I said, I'm 46 years old. I'm getting ready to turn 47 next March. And, I don't know. You know what I mean? You just never know when that timeline is that, you just say, I've had enough. But, yeah, definitely, you definitely got to separate it. I'm very fortunate that my wife is very understanding and my friends and family are understanding. But there's times where I don't even take, because I know that it's going to be, family. I had a dance recital for my niece a couple weeks ago, and I literally left my phone at home because I wanted the focus to be her dance recital, her first dance recital, and I wanted the focus to be that. So I didn't even bother taking my phone, So yeah, that's the biggest thing for me, But you are right. I mean, I get, hey, can you book me at 4:00 in the morning on my phone? So it is what it is, But yeah, for the most part, I try to keep things totally separate.
Awesome. And to kind of wrap up, for anyone coming into Lima out of town, where would you recommend them to go to grab like food or kind of somewhere where the locals go that's not a chain?
There's a few places that I actually like. There's actually a place that's right off 75 called 12 East. It's a bar, quote unquote, but the chef, the guy that runs it is actually a professionally trained chef. And he does fantastic wonders with the food. There's another place in downtown Lima called Regali's Pizza that have been around a long, long time. There's a place actually right off 75. I think it's two exits before they normally would get off at wings and good pizza and all of that. Mostly there's a place downtown what we could call the Met that does a lot of, they have a professionally trained chef and that sort of thing. So yeah, but for the most part, we have mainly chains, like you said. I mean, we have there's a pretty decent Mexican place that's actually right next to 12 East. That's pretty good. So yeah, it's kind of funny you say that, talking about the chains and stuff, because when I travel now, we make a point not to eat at any of the chains.
Yeah.
And so far we've been pretty good. We actually went to Nashville a couple years ago, and we actually ate, every place we ate at was from Dinners, Dives, and Drives or whatever, the TV show.
Yeah.
So I'm actually kind of a foodie myself, so it's actually kind of cool that you said that or whatever, because like I said, I'm kind of a foodie. When we go travel and all that, we always go to the mom and pop places and the non-chain places and that sort of thing or whatever. And probably in my next life, me and my wife have actually talked about opening up a restaurant because we both love cooking. We love cooking for our friends and our family. In next life, will definitely consider it.
Awesome, and I want to thank you for taking the time to chat with us today.
Absolutely.
And, definitely hope to make it out to a couple shows this year once you get the fair circuit wrapped up.
Yep. We'll actually be back September 7th, back to Lima, and the cool thing about that show is we're allowing all first responders in for free.
Awesome.
So, it's kind of our way of giving back. It's real close to, 9/11 and all that sort of thing or whatever. So, last year we did it, and I think we did it at the local high school here in town, and I think we had over 800 people at the show. Oh. So we're looking forward to it again this year. Like I said, it's just our way of giving back. But, yeah, all first responders will get in for free at the September 7th show.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thanks, Tom. And
absolutely. Anytime, sir.
Yep.
You have a great day.
You too.
Bye-bye.